Hi lovies, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you clicked on today's video. We are going to be doing a 24-hour readathon. I haven't done a 24-hour readathon in a really long time. It's been a hot minute and I honestly miss it. For this video specifically, we're not going to be doing a reading for 24 hours straight type of readathon just because those are the videos that really drive me nuts because I just really like my sleep. So we are instead going to be doing how many books, how many pages can I read in 24 hours. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna start a timer on my phone. Anytime I put down a book or have to go to sleep, have to eat, whatever it may be, we're gonna pause the timer and basically we're just gonna keep doing that until we hit the 24-hour mark. And the main idea for today's video is just to see how many books I can read in a 24-hour period as well as how many pages I can read. I like doing these types of videos because it kind of changes every time. I've done 24-hour readathons where I've read 7 or 8 books, and I've done 24-hour readathons where I've only gotten through like 2 or 3 books. So it's always really fun to see kind of where I'm at. It definitely ranges, but I think it's really fun to compare the stats and stuff like that. And yeah, I have some really fun books picked out for the video. I have 2 here, and then I do have a few other books that I think I'm going to try and put into this video. They're new releases and they're coming out very soon. So I'm gonna try and squeeze those books into this video as well because I think it'd be really fun to cover some new releases. But first up, we have The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. This is like the book of the fall time, I feel like. Everybody's reading it, everyone's raving about it, and it just gives off all the cozy pumpkin fallish vibes. Definitely the perfect book to be reading in the month of October. So I'm really excited to give this one a try. And then I also have Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. This is a cutie little YA romance. This is basically about a girl who's in high school, and after school every day she helps her mom at her coffee shop, and a new like chain coffee store I think opens across the way from them. It creates a lot of tension and they're nervous about losing customers and service, stuff like that. And the one thing that may save their coffee shop is a really good pumpkin spice latte, but our FMC in this I think hates pumpkin spice lattes. I picked these 2 books to start the vlog out with just because they give off all the cozy fall vibe. I think I'm gonna begin with the Pumpkin Spice Cafe just because I am obsessed with the cover of this and so many people have been reading it recently, so I feel like I kind of have to catch up and see what the hype is all about. Our FMC in this is Jeannie, and she basically moves to the small town of Dream Harbor to take over her aunt's coffee shop, and in the process of it all she's kind of just trying to figure out who she is, what she wants to do in life, because she feels like she's always been running away from everything. And then our MMC in this is Logan. He's a local farmer and I think he's like a grumpy type of MMC, so I feel like this is going to be a lot of fun and it's going to be really cute to see Logan and Jeannie's dynamic and how they kind of meet. We are going to start our timer. It is 4:55 right now, so it's a little bit later in the day. We'll see how much we will get through. I think I'm gonna make some tea or hot cocoa, get all cozy, and then we are gonna jump right into it. Before we hop into the video though, I just want to say a quick thank you to Pretty Litter for partnering with me today and keeping Stanley Cooper happy and healthy every day. If you've never heard of Pretty Litter before, they focus on all things cat litter and cat accessories to help keep your furry friends happy and healthy. We've been using Pretty Litter for a little over 2 years now, and what originally drew me to them is that you're able to monitor your cat health through their litter. I always want to make sure my pets are happy and healthy at all times, especially to avoid scary vet visits or expensive bills. And with Pretty Litter, I'm able to do just that. Pretty Litter helps you keep track of your cat's urine pH levels, which then can help you catch potential problems your cat may be having. The litter changes colors depending on the pH levels of your cat's urine, and depending on the color, you're able to see if your cat is having any problem. Pretty Litter gives me that peace of mind though when it comes to Stan and his health, and it makes me feel so much better because obviously if he's having problems, he can't exactly tell me. So it's really nice to have Pretty Litter there for us. Not to mention, on top of being able to monitor your cat's health, with Pretty Litter, the crystals inside of it helps absorb odors and moisture, so it keeps your home smelling fresh and clean, which I'm such a big stickler on, and it makes me feel so good when we have people come over and they're surprised when we have a cat because they're like, wow, we can't smell anything. If you're also like me and you strongly dislike going to the store, buying cat litter, and then having to lug the heavy box home, Pretty Litter does offer a subscription where they will deliver fresh litter to your door every single month. Again, we've been using Pretty Litter for the past 2 years. It's made the biggest difference in all of our lives, and I just could not recommend them enough. So if you guys want to check them out for yourself, you can go to prettylitter.com/AlexaRaye and use code AlexaRaye to save 20% off on your first order. You'll also get a free cutie little cat toy included. But with all that being said, thank you so much to Pretty Litter for partnering with me in today's video. And without further ado, let's hop into the readathon. It's time for our first check-in of the reading vlog. I stopped exactly halfway through the book, so we're on page 178, and it's taken me 2 hours and 34 minutes to read 178 pages, which is actually pretty good in my opinion. I feel like I'm a pretty average reader when it comes to speed. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit on the slower side, but with this book I honestly feel like I've been flying through it. It's definitely a super easygoing, easy flowing type of read. Our FMC in this is Jeannie, and she is new to Dream Harbor. She's basically taking over her aunt's coffee shop, and she is absolutely terrified because she's never done that before. She's never run a coffee shop, let alone any other type of business, so this is totally new to her. And she's also now living in a super small town. I think she might be from a city type of lifestyle, but nonetheless this is all totally new to her. And then our MMC is Logan. In the beginning of this book he kind of gave off grumpy vibes, but I feel like the more we read into it he's kind of letting loose and opening up a lot, so I'm really liking his character and basically the way that him and Jeannie meet. Kind of funny, to be completely honest. They definitely have a one-of-a-kind type of meet cute in my opinion, just because the way that they meet. Jeannie is basically terrified at first and she doesn't know what to expect or what to think, so I thought the whole scene and encounter was actually pretty funny and I enjoyed it. So far though, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really into the story. I'm excited to see where it goes, and there's already been so many really sweet little quotes and things that I've taken from this book. But I will say there are a few things about this one that I just wasn't really expecting. For one, this is definitely giving off insta-lovey vibes, which I didn't know it was gonna be insta-lovey. And it's not that I hate that trope, but it's definitely not one of my favorites just because it's so boring. Our characters meet and then bam, they're already in love and obsessed with each other. I always feel like with that trope there's not a lot of in-between stuff. There's not a lot of really getting to know each other, and I feel like the relationship in this book, it's we're speed running it basically. I think she's only been there for a few weeks and I feel like the romance has just escalated so quickly, so that's kind of something I wasn't expecting with this. Definitely the insta-lovey trope. Another thing that definitely I wasn't expecting and is kind of not my favorite is the fact that there's just not a lot to it. There's not a lot to this story or these characters. I feel like we're just given these two characters, they're just plopped on paper, and there's not really a lot of background on them or a lot of context, and that's fine. That's totally fine. And that's probably why this is such an easy and fast-going read for me, because we're literally just jumping scene to scene to scene. But because there's not a lot to our characters and their relationships, I just feel like I can't really connect to them. It's adorable, don't get me wrong, but there's just not a lot of stuffing to it. You know what I mean? I feel like that's such a weird way to put it and a weird reference to make, but there's just not a lot of stuff in here. It is really cute. I'm enjoying it, and I think our characters are really cute, but I'm just not connecting to them too much. And I think also throwing in the insta love trope in here with it being so flatline, it's just kind of boring. I'm not utterly in love with it. I'm not obsessed and swooning over these characters and their relationship. It's the best way I could put it. Not that I'm trying to put this book down, because I do think it's cute and it's an easy read, but there's just not a lot to it. Take from that what you will, I guess. In the middle of chapter 17, you know, the romance is romancing. Everything's all well in the world basically right now, which means we are bound to come up on some craziness in the upcoming chapters. I don't know what's gonna happen or what the big conflict's gonna be in this book. Quite literally, there's just like nothing really happening in here, but we're gonna keep going. We're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna try and finish it up tonight just because it's still really early and I do feel like I'm kind of flying through it right now, so I'm gonna see if I can finish it up. We're gonna see what happens. We're clocking in at 4 hours and 28 minutes. We have officially finished The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. Honestly, 4 hours and 28 minutes, and I think it's like 350 something pages. I feel like that's a pretty good timestamp for me, to be completely honest. Usually on average, no matter how long or short a book has been in the past, it's always taken me like 6 hours to finish a book. I'm not even kidding. For some reason, it always takes me 6 hours. So the fact that I finished this in only like 4 hours, I'm sorry, who is she? I'm so proud of myself. Pumpkin Spice Cafe, it definitely gave off all the cozy fall vibes, the Gilmore vibes, the small town vibes that we love during cozy season. Yeah, I think it definitely delivered for like being a cutie fall read. 2.5 stars. I think that may be one of my lowest ratings of the year, and it's not that I like despise the book or disliked it, but it just, I think the romance is really cute, but again, I'm just not really big when it comes to the insta-lovey trope. I don't know what it is. It's just like not really for me, and this was super, super insta-lovey right from the start. Our characters are just like obsessed with each other, it seems, and I just feel like when it comes to romance books, I like the slow-paced romances between like enemies to lovers, grumpy meets sunshine, stuff like that, because we just get more between them. And I also love like tension in romances, and I feel like the tension in this book, there was like a little bit, but just not enough for me to really be happy or satisfied with it. So that's what brought down to a lower rating, as well as there just not being a lot of context and stuff going on in this book. We really are just going scene by scene by scene, and there's just not a lot to our main characters, to our side characters, and because of that, you're just not able to really connect to them, in my opinion. I am really excited to read the second book in the series because we do meet the characters for that book, and I'm very intrigued with it, and I hear it's a lot better than this one, so I'm excited to pick that one up and try it. This is definitely a cute little fall romance. One of my favorite characters in the book is actually this little white cat, like my favorite character out of this entire story. He was so funny. I think for the fall time, this is a cute book to pick up, but other than that, there's like nothing really special about it, in my opinion. I feel like if we just got more background on our characters and more between our characters, I probably would have liked it. There was just like a whole lot of nothing going on. Definitely not one of my favorites, but definitely not one of the worst books I've read. The next book we're going to tackle in today's reading vlog is Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. This is a cutie little YA romance, and it's basically about a girl who helps her mom run her coffee shop, and a chain coffee shop opens up across the street from them and kind of starts stealing some of their customers and stuff like that. And our FMC in this thinks that just maybe if they come up with a better pumpkin spice latte than the other coffee shop, then they'll be able to keep all their customers happy and coming to their shop. And then our MMC in this book is the son of the owners of the chain coffee shop. So I'm guessing we're gonna get some type or some form of enemies to lovers in here, just because they're rival coffee shops. I think it's gonna have a lot of similar vibes to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe because they're both about coffee shops, but I also think that in this book it takes place in a small town as well. I feel like it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I almost feel like it's our second chance because book one wasn't like the best book for us, but we are gonna hop right into it. I am so excited because I am living for the Gilmore Girl vibes in these books. So I just finished up chapter 1. It was only 10 pages, so it was kind of like a smaller chapter, and it was really just setting up the whole story for us basically. We're introduced to our FMC, who is Lucy, and then we're also introduced to our MMC, Jack Harper, and then the chapter basically ends with Lucy finding out that a new coffee shop is going in across the street from her mom's. That was literally the whole chapter. It only took me like 5 minutes to read the first chapter, so I can't imagine it's going to take me too long to read this, but so far we're off to a good start. We're almost halfway through Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. This book is definitely taking me a lot longer to read than it should, and I feel like it's taking me longer to read than the first book in this video. In the first book there was a lot of romancing and stuff like that, and I know I mentioned how I couldn't really connect to any of the characters because of the way the story was set up, but at the same time I still enjoyed it and I liked the whole vibe of the book. With this one though, this is really boring. I am just not getting into this. I thought I really like it because it's about two rival coffee shops. There's an enemies to lovers in it. It takes place in a small town during the fall time. I just had a lot of really high hopes for it, especially because this cover is so stinking cute. Maybe this is my sign to stop judging books by their covers. The pretty covers are not hitting, unfortunately. This is just extremely boring in my opinion. I've found myself going back and rereading chapters because I'm getting distracted. I'm not really into the book at all. When I'm in the middle of reading, I'll like start daydreaming or like getting distracted by my phone, and I'll have to go back and reread, and I think that's probably what's taking up a lot of time with this book right now. I also feel like even though it's a shorter read, the words are bigger on the pages, it doesn't really feel fast-paced or easygoing when it comes to reading, at least in my opinion and like my personal reading style. The romance aspect in this feels non-existent, which is probably why I'm also not really liking it. And then our FMC in this book, I know it's a YA, but I've read so many YA books where authors will portray these younger characters and make them seem so much younger than what they are. Our FMC in this, Lucy, she's a senior in high school, and the way that she's just acting, I don't know, it just doesn't seem right in my opinion. With our MMC, Jack, I think he's totally fine, but for some reason, Lucy's character in this book is just coming off a little bit insufferable for me. She's a really big complainer, and I think that's kind of why I'm also getting a little uninterested with this book. She keeps bringing up the same thing over and over again, and it's just really annoying. I'm gonna say it. It's just annoying. And I also think that she's acting so immature for her age. There's a scene in the beginning of this book where she kind of causes an incident in the coffee shop, and it totally caught me off guard. And since that chapter, I feel like things have just kind of escalated and gotten even weirder in this story. The only thing that hasn't really escalated is like the romance. I feel like this isn't meant to be a romance, and again, it is YA, so obviously there's not going to be a lot of romancing in it, but again, it just feels really non-existent in this. I thought there was going to be these two rival coffee shops, there were going to be these two epic enemies to lovers, but it's really not like that at all in this book. And then quote wise, I haven't really taken any good or solid quotes from this book. They're just kind of like, I don't know, corny. I don't know, it's just not hitting for me, unfortunately. I'm gonna call it quits for the night because I am exhausted. The past 2.5 hours reading this book has totally put me to sleep. We will pick this back up in the morning though, and hopefully it gets better. Hi lovies, a long time no chat. I haven't talked to the camera in a hot minute. It's actually been quite some time, and it's mainly because of this book. We finished up Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice, and it was a struggle. I don't even know where to begin with this book. I think the last time I talked to you guys, I was mentioning how it was just kind of boring. The FMC was super irritating to me, and it just was not what I thought it was gonna be. This is a 1-star read for me. I think it is my first 1-star read of 2024, which is absolutely crazy because we're also at the end of the year, so it's hilarious that I made it all year without having a 1-star, and we're finally here. We have our first 1-star of the year, so hopefully it's our last. I finished this over a week ago, and it quite literally put me into a reading slump, so I put my camera down, I put my timer down, and I was like, okay, I need to take a break for a little bit, because if I don't, I know I'm just gonna be in a poor mood for every other book I read after this one. So I took a little break. We're back. It's 1 star. The main character Lucy in this, she just This is what really irks me when it comes to YA books. I feel like authors will write these characters like they are 10 years younger than what they really are. Our FMC in this Lucy is a senior in high school, and the way that she was acting throughout this whole book, I just felt like it wasn't accurate to a senior in high school, and I could not stand her for most of the book because she was just being so repetitive with the petty arguments and the stuff that she kept bringing up over and over again. I was like, girlfriend, move on to something new. She was just kind of living in the moment with this one singular problem, and it was absolutely driving me crazy. The whole rival coffee shop thing I thought was a really cute idea and concept. I feel like this book overall had a lot of potential, but the way that the story kind of just went, I just feel like it wasn't what I was hoping for, unfortunately. I don't think I have any complaints about our MMC in this. He was kind of just there, so maybe that's my complaint. He was just there, guys. The romance aspect in this was just non-existent, and again, this is a YA read. I think it is targeted towards a younger YA group, so that could be the main reason for it, but overall I just thought this book was kind of irritating. If you want to give it a try, definitely do that because it does have a very cute and pretty cover. On a better note though, we have Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage as our next read. I am so stinking excited for this book. It literally just came out and I have been waiting patiently since book 2. I actually read book 1 and book 2 earlier this year. I want to say in April or May. Loved both those books so much. I read them back to back and was just obsessed with them, and I was so upset because I saw that the third book wasn't coming out until November. So I've definitely been patiently waiting for this book, and I've been so excited about it because the two main characters in this, we've kind of gotten little breadcrumbs of them between book 1 and book 2, and I've just already fallen madly in love with both of them. Our FMC in this is Teddy Anderson, and she's the best friend to the FMC in book 1. Teddy is like awesome. She's such a badass. I love everything about her. She just seems like such a fun and free-spirited person, and I just know I'm gonna be obsessed with her in this book, and I'm so happy we finally have a book that's like all about her. And then our MMC in this is Gus Ryder. He's the older brother to our FMC in book 1, and he's also the best friend to our MMC in book 1, which really made for a fun little dynamic in that book. But this is all about them. It's an enemies to lovers. They've always hated each other. Gus thinks that Teddy has always been a bad influence on his little sister, but at the same time there's always been a lot of tension between the two of them, and I'm just so excited to finally have their story. This is also a single dad trope, and basically over the summer Gus needs help taking care of his kids and watching them, and he has no other option than Teddy Anderson, and basically they kind of come up with this arrangement where she's helping watch his kids and stuff like that. I'm just so excited about it because I feel like it's gonna be such a fun read. It kind of reminds me of Heartless by Elsie Silver. I don't think it was necessarily an enemies to lovers in that book. It was a similar situation where it was a single dad who needed help watching his kids over the summer because he was working on the ranch, and he ends up asking his sister's best friend to help him. So excited to start this, so let's hop into it. I'm on chapter 25, page 172. I've literally been binging this book all morning, guys. I am obsessed with it, and to be completely honest, I do feel like it's everything that I was hoping for and more out of Teddy and Gus. I've just been waiting for their story for so many months. I can't even imagine the people who have literally been waiting since book 2 came out. I can't remember if book 2 came out earlier this year, if it came out last year, but have literally been waiting for this couple, and I'm just obsessed with both of them. I think I love these books so much because there's so much flirting in them, and for me, when it comes to romance and there's a lot of flirting and tension, it just makes my heart so happy. I get all those happy butterflies, and I also feel like it always gives me like a good laugh because a lot of the time when they're flirting, I like end up giggling because I just think it's so funny and cute. But chapter 25, we're almost halfway through, but basically we're in the story. Teddy is helping Gus for the summer. You know, he's a super busy man. He's got to work on the ranch and Rebel Blue and all that stuff. So Teddy is helping him watch his daughter for the summer, and there's just been so many scenes already between the two of them where I'm just like, makes me so happy. Just the interactions between the two of them so far have just been all over the map. In the beginning, you're really getting that strong enemies to lovers. They despise each other, they get the ick around each other, but at the same time, there's like that tension, and you can tell that the two of them have chemistry, which I think is so funny when it comes to enemies to lovers, is when two people absolutely despise each other, but you can just feel their chemistry radiating off the pages. Like, that's how I feel about Teddy and Gus. And in the beginning of the book, there's just so many moments where they're absolutely just hating on each other, but you can also tell that they just are obsessed with each other. This has been such a happy and feel-good type of read so far. It's definitely making up for the first two books in this video because I was getting a little nervous. Lots of really cute little things have happened so far. There's definitely, you know, a sense of miscommunication, a strong sense of miscommunication in this book, which usually I absolutely despise, but I think because I'm so excited about this book and so in love with these characters already, I don't necessarily mind it. We'll see what happens when we finish it, but we're gonna keep going, see what happens with Teddy. Right now they're kind of in like a little spat. The miscommunication is basically miscommunicating right now. I'm gonna get through this little rough patch and see what happens. We're clocking in at 13 hours and 9 minutes. We officially finished Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. I already said it, but it really is everything that I wanted and more. I'm gonna land on a 4-star rating though. I was really hoping that this would be my 5-star of the series because the first two books were also 4 stars for me. But by the end of it, I just felt like there was something maybe missing. I don't know what it was. I think the problem with these books is that I always just want more of them. So I feel like if they had like 100 more pages to them, they would probably be 5 stars because then I would feel content. I feel like they always end so fast and then I just want more, and I want more of these characters. Nonetheless, this was so adorable. I loved it. I loved Teddy. I loved Gus. They are everything I wanted and more, to be completely honest. I'm super excited to see what book 4 has in store with Cam and Dusty. We get a little sneak peek of them at the end of this, and we also get little breadcrumbs of the two of them in this book. Cam and Dusty might just do it for me. In book 1, I didn't really care for either of them, but by the 3rd book, now I'm like, okay, I need Cam and Dusty's story like now. This was so cute. It gave off all the small town cozy vibes. We have a grumpy MMC, we have a solid enemies to lovers in here, and of course I did mention it, we do have a little bit of a miscommunication trope in here, which again drove me so crazy in the story, but at the same time I just love these characters so much that I didn't even care. Especially Teddy Anderson, she just gives off all the fun and free-spirited vibes. I literally am obsessed with her. I wish she was a real person and that I could be best friends with her because she seems like the ultimate best friend. Gus in this book honestly reminded me a lot of Heartless, which is book 2 in the Chestnut Spring series. Overall, 10 out of 10 for Gus. Loved him as a dad, especially the way he cares for his daughter in this story. The conflict that we get towards the end of this book drove me up a wall just because in book 1 a lot of stuff happens and I feel like Teddy is so supportive and she's there for her best friend, and then when it happens in this book and the roles are kind of reversed, I feel like Emmy isn't really there for Teddy, and it kind of broke my heart for her, but I think it was a really solid lesson to be learned in this book, and overall I just absolutely loved it. The 4th book is going to be called Wild and Wrangled. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. This was 300 pages exactly. That's with the epilogue, and we're clocked in at 13 hours and 9 minutes, so we're gonna keep the reading vlog rolling. With my next read, it's a brand new release as well. It literally came out right after Lost and Lassoed, and I have been patiently waiting for this one as well. Book 1 in the series is Lightlark, and it's all about Isla Crown. It kind of gave off Hunger Games, to be completely honest. That's the best way I can explain Lightlark. It gave off Hunger Games, but Isla Crown doesn't have powers. The whole point of this game, this centennial, is that all the rulers come together and they basically try to break these curses that each realm has on them. So book 1 is set around that, and then book 2 kind of continues on the story, and then we have book 3 that I am so excited about because the way that book 2 leaves off, you are definitely just It is a crazy, crazy cliffhanger. I'm really excited to finally have Skyshade in my hands, and I'm so excited to jump into it. We're continuing on the story of Isla Crown and Grimm and Oro and everybody else in the story. In Lightlark, we do get a little bit of a love triangle, so we have a really fun romance kind of developing throughout this whole series. And I definitely have a character that I'm rooting for when it comes to the romance in this, so hopefully everything kind of goes my way. We'll see what happens, I guess, because I feel like Alex Aster does a really great job with making you fall in love with all the characters, and she does a really good job at like tricking you into liking characters. So it's gonna be really fun to see what she does to us in this book. But we are gonna hop right into it. We're gonna continue the timer. I love the hardcover of this book. I think it is so cool, and I really like how there's a dagger on the spine. I'm on page 123. The chapter is called Heart Tripper. So much is happening in this book already that I just didn't expect to happen. So far, I feel like it's definitely focused on the storyline and, you know, adventure aspect opposed to being more focused on the romance. And it's kind of giving off similar vibes to book 1, whereas in book 2, it focused a lot more on the romance aspects. So far, I really like it. I like that we're getting more background on Isla, on Grimm, on Oro, and we're also having past characters make a reappearance, which is really crazy and kind of catching me off guard. We're about a third of the way through. Isla and Grimm are trying to figure out a solution to something that is happening in Nightshade. There's still obviously so much more to learn and discover. There's a lot of like holes in the storyline so far, and I'm kind of just waiting for everything to reveal itself. So that's a little bit like nerve-wracking right now, just because I'm like, what does this mean? What does that mean? But at the same time, I am really enjoying it, so I don't really mind it. Nothing too crazy just yet, but I can feel it that the story is about to get really crazy. I'm interested to see how Grimm and Oro kind of tie back into Isla's story. It's always so hard when I'm in the middle of book series and I do reading vlogs for them, because I feel like I can't say too much without spoiling it. So I'm trying to keep this as spoiler-free as possible for you guys. I can't say too much on this book in this video, but I will say that I'm enjoying it and that I am rooting so hard for a certain character, and I can feel that we're about to hit like a crazy part in the story. So I think I'm gonna head into bed and kind of keep reading for the rest of the night, and then we'll touch base with this again tomorrow. We are clocked in at a little bit over 20 hours, and we just finished up Skyshade by Alex Aster. What the heck was this? Is this the last book in the series? Is it meant to be a trilogy? I feel like it was supposed to be a trilogy, but with the way it ended, it can't be a trilogy. I feel very unwell after reading this. It was incredible. 5 stars, obviously. I think book 1 and book 2 were also both 5 stars for me. There's something about Alex Aster's writing style that I just really, really vibe with. I fly through her books and I'm always just so obsessed with them. And I really feel like I'm transported into these books when I'm reading them, and I love that, especially when it comes to fantasy books. If you've read the Lightlark series and you've read this already, what was this? What just happened in the end of this book? I was a little bit over 100 pages out from the end of this, and I was getting very, very nervous, especially for the character that I've been like rooting for since day one. I'm gonna be thinking about this book for the rest of 2024. This was incredible. I love this entire series. I've seen a lot of people say that they read book 1 and they didn't really like it, so they didn't move on. If you take anything away from this video, guys, read book 1 if you've read it already and didn't like it. Please, 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 please move on to book 2. It gets so much better, especially romance-wise. It really heats up in book 2, and book 3 was a roller coaster. Once you get to that halfway mark though, it really starts to take off and everything just Wow, 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 wow. I wish I could live in this universe. So we're clocked in at a little over 20 hours. We have less than 4 hours to go. I'm trying to think of what book we should read it next. I kind of want to pick out a smaller one so we can try and finish it before the 24 hours is up. I think I'm going to try out When in Rome by Sarah Adams. It's on the itty bitty side, so I feel like I can read this hopefully in the next 4 hours. But Sarah Adams is an author I've heard really, really good things about. I actually have 2 other books by her. They're her football romances. I haven't read them yet, but those are books that people rave about too. I think this would be a really fun opportunity to kind of test out her writing and see if it's something that I really like. When in Rome, I think it is like a small town type of romance. Our FMC in this is Amelia, and she basically is like a pop star, but she's kind of getting overwhelmed with the fame and success, so she decides to take her own little Roman holiday, and she ends up in Rome, Kentucky. And while she's there, she meets Noah Walker, who I believe is a baker, which I think is gonna be so cute. It's also really funny the way they meet, because on the back it says that her car breaks down on his front lawn. That's hilarious. We're gonna jump right into it, our final read of the 24-hour readathon. Okay guys, we are clocking in at 24 hours and 1 minute exactly. I made it to chapter 30, page 243. We were very, very close to finishing it up. We only have this little bit to go, but I wanted to touch base now because we finally hit the 24-hour mark, and I honestly feel like I've been recording this video for far too long. It feels really good to finally have hit the 24-hour mark. We're almost to the end of this though, and I can honestly see why people rave about Sarah Adams. I do really like her writing style, and I find it to be like super easygoing. But I literally flew through this book in 4 hours, which is pretty impressive for me because I can be a super slow reader. I think for both characters, their development throughout the story has been so great, and it's just such a cute and sweet little read. I really love how much Noah cares for Amelia and the little things that he kind of does for her throughout the story. I'm living for the small town vibes and the small town baker vibes, and I really like how both our FMC and MMC are so drastically different, but at the same time I feel like they complement each other really well. Rating wise, I'm not done with it yet, but how I'm feeling right now, I feel like this is probably gonna be around a 3.5-star read. With that being said though, that brings us to the end of today's reading vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you had fun. Just for a quick little recap, we read a total of 4 books, almost 5 books if we're counting When in Rome. Total pages I read is 1,598 pages in 24 hours, which is a really big number if you think about it. I think when it comes to reading and reading speed, there's so many different factors that go into it, like if I'm really into a book or if I'm not really into a book, if I'm tired, if I'm wide awake, if it's morning, if it's night. I think it's really interesting to see the different ways that my reading speed definitely changes. With the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, we flew through that book, and then we went to Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice, and that book was significantly shorter in my opinion, but it still took me longer because I just wasn't really into it. With Skyshade, I feel like I was so into the book and I didn't want it to end, so I was really taking my time with it. And then with When in Rome, I knew that I only had like 4.5 hours to read it, so I was definitely speed reading it and I was able to get through the majority of it. So I think it's always interesting to see how reading and reading speed kind of changes depending on the mood. If you guys enjoyed today's video though, if you did, definitely let me know down below. And with all that being said, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one.